Hey guys, welcome back to another Smash Ultimate video, and I humbly apologize for uploading two tier list videos back to back. Reason being is that by the time you see this, I'll currently be away in Japan for 2 weeks, and I was initially planning to make a Why No One Plays Lucario episode, which I've been hoping to make for a while, but this week I've been frantically running around trying to make sure that all three of my channels are taken care of and, fully situated. Before I go, I understand being a YouTuber I can take a break whenever I want to, but I think going 2 weeks without giving you guys anything to watch is not something I really want to do. Also, I was planning to make an updated matchup chart for Cloud eventually, seeing as how the one I made back in 2022 was back when I was still bad at the game. Now, I'm not saying I'm a god tier player, but I like to think that my opinions have changed with a lot of matchups, and this will be a good opportunity to kind of talk to you about them. So for some background information, I do play the game competitively. I like to go to tournaments, locals, and majors whenever possible, and I am a 2-tour, 3-tour Cloud player, but in my defense, Tri-State is extremely stacked, so I'd like to believe that being a 2-tour here is a lot more significant than being a 2-tour elsewhere. To my knowledge, I might actually be the best solo Cloud player in New Jersey. We don't have that many Cloud players in New Jersey. We actually have a lot more of the weirder characters like Bowser Jr., Luigi and stuff, but I think out of the Cloud players we do have, I'm the only one who goes solo Cloud. Every other Cloud player has a secondary. So I'm gonna claim that title shamelessly, but in all seriousness, I think that I'm pretty knowledgeable about my character and about the game. I'm again not a pro player, but just want to get the point across that I'm not some goon on the internet talking out of my ass. I mean, we all are, but you get the idea. Okay, here are the tiers. We have 60-40 wins. Cloud is almost always in control. The onus is on the opponent to outplay Cloud, gimp him, cheese him, whatever. Then we have a slight win, 55-45. Cloud still wins, but the opponent has a way out of the match. They have a win condition or something they can pursue relatively feasibly, so that's something you have to watch out for. Then you have 50-50 even skill issue, then slightly loses, where generally the opponent has more sway in the matchup, but it is winnable. The Cloud player just has to play really good. Then you have 40-60 loses. In my opinion, Cloud's a character who's very solid and very stable to the point where he has no -2s, -3s. He only has a most -1. Historically, I've never run into a matchup where I feel like there's nothing I can do. There's always something I feel like I can do. So when I say loses in the 40-60 sense, it's not impossible, but it's uncomfortable enough to where if I did have a secondary, I would rather play that character. Okay, so we have a massive roster to go through. I'm gonna be pretty quick about things, apart from maybe a few of them. And if you have any specific questions about the matchup, you can let me know in the comments. I'll try to respond to them while I'm in Japan, but it might be a few days late. I might just respond to them when I get back. Or you can also just DM me on Twitter. Banjo. Banjo is a slight win. I think he's definitely on the defensive when fighting against Cloud. He's a very annoying character to play against as Cloud because I feel like you have a tendency to attack the grenade a lot more often than you want to, which then explodes it. But most of the time, Cloud can usually beat Banjo pretty convincingly. It's just that you gotta watch out for the matchup checks. Bayo's also going to be in slightly wins. I do think that even though Smash 4, Bayo destroyed Cloud, or not destroyed Cloud, but Bayo had the advantage, I think Cloud has the advantage here because he can force her to approach him, which is the main thing. In fact, a lot of these matchups, his win condition is to just wait for them to come to him, and then he just walls them out with a bunch of hitboxes. Bayo is in a similar situation, only she does have Witch Time, so she can bait out and up you at a shield and then Witch Time you that way, but overall I don't think she's the most dangerous opponent to fight, with the exception of be careful when you get thrown off stage. Bowser is in slightly loses. Cloud does have a hard time against heavies because he doesn't have that same explosive combo game that a Terry or a Mario or a Wario has against them, and he also can't brainlessly edgeguard him the way Pikachu can. And against Bowser that can be pretty difficult because Bowser has the same added shield pressure as him, he has the same mid-range pressure as him, but he also has a lot more survivability and he has a command grab to attack you through shield, in which case your up be added shield doesn't matter that much. So the Cloud player definitely has to play a lot more carefully, whereas the Bowser player can play more aggressively, hence why I put him in slightly loses. That being said, Cloud does have a win condition in the sense that he has a massive sword, so he can dish out a lot of damage to Bowser, you just have to be very careful. Bowser Jr. is also a slight win. I think Bowser Jr. has a few tools that can make things difficult for Cloud, especially when recovering, and he's known to do a lot of rising aerials, for example in rising nair, rising forward air, rising back air, which can beat out Cloud because Cloud's more of a landing aerial character, but overall I think Cloud has more stats, more range, more speed than Bowser Jr., and that's usually how you're gonna have to play. Byleth. I'll put Byleth in 55-45. I think that it's mostly the cheese. I think if it weren't for the fact that Byleth can just one-shot you at 60, then I'd put him in 60-40, but I do think that while Cloud is faster, Byleth has the range to make it harder for Cloud to kind of play comfortably, because usually Cloud has the range advantage. Against Byleth, he doesn't, so it's a very neutral and advantage-heavy kind of matchup. I really love this matchup, because even though I think Cloud has the advantage, it's a very skill-oriented Fundies matchup essentially. Captain Falcon, I'm gonna say 60-40. Falcon is pretty fast, but Cloud is also fast enough to kind of match his speed, and then he has bigger hitboxes. So I think the Falcon player just has to maximize his combo game when he does get in, but it's pretty difficult for Falcon to get in, I would say, compared to like some other characters. Chrom is going to be in 55-45. I think you could say Chrom is like Falcon, only Chrom has the range to match Cloud. Similarly to Roy, Chrom can break through Cloud's defensive game relatively easily. The key disadvantage in this matchup, for Chrom at least, is that Cloud can very easily punish Chrom's up B because he has limit. Because you can limit Blade Beam and Dash Attack his up B almost every single time. And I think that's a very big contributing factor to why Cloud beats Chrom, but loses to Roy, which I'll talk about in a bit. Corrin is dead even. Both characters have good frame data, good range. Cloud's a bit faster, but Corrin's more tactical. I think there is no matchup that's more even for Cloud than Corrin. Actually, that's not true, there is Ike. Next character will be Daisy and Peach. Daisy and Peach are going to be over here. Actually, no, you know what? I think I'll put them over here. Historically, Sparkle actually has a somewhat difficult time against Mutace. Not like a hard one, they do trade wins back to back, but I think conceptually Cloud has a very easy time walling out Peach and Daisy, and they play very whiff punishy, but so does Cloud. You can think of it like both of them are whiff punishers and both have a reason to camp, but one is a sword and is fast, while the other has combo game and float, but in a head-to-head I think Cloud definitely has the advantage. Dark Pit and regular Pit. This is another even matchup. Dark Pit and Pit have pretty strong ground game and a decent aerial game, while Cloud has a good air game and decent ground game, so they're pretty even in that sense. Fighting Pit can be difficult for Cloud because Pit can go in relatively easily with like Rising Fair, Rising Nair, and there's generally better tools on the ground, plus Pit can edge guard Cloud pretty well. At the same time, Cloud can destroy Pit pretty convincingly, so it's an even matchup. Next character is Diddy Kong. I put Diddy Kong in slightly loses. Diddy Kong is faster, has better frame data, and Banana's Transcendent, so you cannot rely on aerials that much to kind of like wall out Diddy. He can just throw right through it. I think overall this is a very uncomfortable matchup because Diddy is a very anti-mid-range character because of Banana. Next character is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is similar to Bowser where in neutral you kind of just beat him all over the place, but if he gets in, he can destroy you very quickly. You guys know how it goes, you get grabbed by DK at 40 and you basically die. Dr. Mario 60-40, he's too slow to break through Cloud, and for the most part, he just doesn't have the range to keep up. This is arguably one of Cloud's easiest matchups. Duck Hunt is also pretty winning. I think Cloud can get through Duck Hunt relatively comfortably. Duck Hunt has quite a few blind spots that Cloud can kind of break through, and I don't feel like they have the same pressure as, say, a Samus or whatnot, so I think I'll put him at 60-40. I've never fought a good Duck Hunt before, I've only ever fought them online, but just conceptually speaking, I think Cloud is relatively comfortable against Duck Hunt. Falco. Falco is in slightly wins. Falco gets walled out by Cloud, but he does have a burst movement option in the form of Phantasm, and if he does get in, it's a ton of damage and possibly death. Moreover, Falco does have rising aerials, so he can call out Cloud's jumps. I think it's in slightly wins. Altogether though, I do think Cloud still has the advantage. Next character will be Fox. I put Fox in even because Fox is so fast and so destructive, kinda like Falco where if he gets in on you, you kinda just get blown up to pieces. And he does have quite a few aerials that are safe on shield or just attacks in general that for Cloud to win this, it comes down to a lot of callouts and split-second decision making. The fact that Spargo and Light keep trading sets between each other should be a testament of that. This is a more even matchup than it looks. I think Spargo puts it as winning, but I disagree. I think it's pretty even since Fox does die very quickly to like let's say up smash, limit cross slash or back air, but Fox can blow up Cloud very quickly since Cloud has good frame data but nowhere near the same frame data as Fox. Ganondorf is win. He's one of the few heavies who has no real answer to Cloud's walling compared to the other heavies, so yeah, it's a win. Greninja is one of Cloud's most difficult matchups. Cloud can't really pressure Greninja's shield because Greninja players almost never shield. They tend to rely on evasion. He has a good combo game, he low profiles despite existing, and overall he has enough speed and mobility to dance around Cloud's hitboxes and make it very difficult to hit him. That doesn't mean Cloud can't win the matchup, but I do think that it's a very challenging one. Okay, next one is going to be Hero. Hero is slightly wins. I say that because Hero, if it wasn't for the crits, the menu and stuff like that, Hero would be 60-40 because he's just slower and just less frame data overall, but because of menu, anything can happen. I still think that Cloud has the advantage, but you really can't count out Hero, that's just how he is. Ice Climbers, this is a hard win. While they do put you in a blender as soon as they get in on you, unlike Fox or Falco, there's not much they can do to kind of do that. Cloud's extremely good at playing around Ice Climbers, and I think that especially after you separate Nana from Popo, Sopo vs Cloud is unwinnable for Sopo. There is nothing Cloud can do, that's how lopsided the matchup is. 50-50. Ike has more range, coverage, and kill power, Claude has more mobility and speed. So it's a very equal exchange, neither character wants to approach, but to some extent both kind of have to. Incineroar will be 55-45. Claude wins overall in neutral, but it's Incineroar. Incin can always find a way to blow you up. Inkling's another 40-60. Extremely mobile, has a good ground game, can whiff punish just like Greninja can, and generally is just difficult for Claude to fight because they're so evasive. They do have pretty fast frame data which you have to watch out for, and their mobility overall is just difficult for them to deal with because they can wait for you to throw out a laggy move and then punish accordingly. You really have to play patient against Inkling as Cloud. Isabelle is pretty free, I would say. I don't think there's much she can do to beat you. She can poke you out with Rising Fair, and if you're not careful she can gimp you, but aside from that, there's not much Isabelle can do in this matchup. Joker is going to be slightly losing. Very similar to Greninja and Inkling, he's a hit and runner and that can make him very difficult to fight, but I do think that compared to Greninja and Inkling, Joker has to put himself in comparatively greater danger than Cloud can. One thing that makes this matchup more tolerable than Greninja or Inkling is that Cloud naturally does a lot of damage, which means that he can break Arsene very quickly, so Joker can get punished pretty hard by Cloud. Cloud is definitely still at a disadvantage, but the Joker player still has to respect him. Jigglypuff is 60-40. Actually no, I think I might put her here. Unlike other characters who have to gimp you and don't have the tools to gimp you, Jigglypuff has the tools to gimp you and she can gimp you, so I think in theory she should never get her hands on you, but her airspeed's really good that she can kind of float away from your hitboxes and then come back in, and then trying to recover against her without limit or even with limit is next to impossible. Kazuya is 50-50. You cannot get complacent and just rely on your Fair and Bear and just wall him out because he can iframe through it. That's the main thing, is that Kazuya is slow, especially in the air, but he has so much intangibility that he can just kind of brute force his way through your hitboxes, in which case there's nothing you can do. I used to think this matchup was a slightly win for Cloud, until I started fighting better Kazuya players, in which case, oh never mind, they can beat me. So it's even, it's a very neutral focused matchup. Kenzin wins, I think, because yeah, you just wall him out. That's basically it, just wall him out, and unlike Ryu, who has a relatively strong and threatening projectile, Ken's isn't really that scary, and also Ryu has I think a better nair for this matchup than Ken does, so overall just wall him out, never let him get close to you, and you're fine. DDD is a hard win. There's not much that DDD can do against Cloud. DDD doesn't have the frame data, nor does he have the same kind of like fast brawling potential as DK. He doesn't have the out of shield options and mid-range that Bowser does. He doesn't have the iframes that Kazuya does. DDD just doesn't really have anything. Next to Ganondorf, he's the easiest heavyweight for Cloud to fight. K-Rool on the other hand is a bit more challenging. He's similar to DDD where he's pretty slow and his frame data is not the best, but he does have belly armor, and belly armor can make things very tricky and neutral, and then when you use belly armor on stage, it can very easily gimp Cloud. Just by like doing falling nair, it can beat both versions of up B, the base one and the limit one. There's a bit more tact necessitated by the Cloud player, but overall I think it's still pretty easy for Cloud. Kirby is with Punisher Extraordinaire, but Cloud is also with Punisher Extraordinaire. What's the difference? I have a sword. Kirby can gimp Cloud, but unlike Jigglypuff, he doesn't have the movement to get in. This is a very easy matchup for Cloud, it's just that if the Kirby player has the patience of a saint, then the Cloud player might get complacent for it and then get punished, but overall, this should be a very free win for Cloud. Link is even. He can make you approach him more than you can make him approach you, and then he has Nair and a lot of safe aerials to kind of beat you out, so it's a tricky matchup. It's not the most difficult matchup in the game, but Link has sufficient tools to fight short, mid, and long range that there's no specific distance where Cloud can just comfortably beat him. You just have to be the better player of the entire set. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I had to take a quick break. My voice has been giving out on me. When you're recording for like, what, 7 days straight? It really strains you out. Okay, moving on, we have Little Mac. Little Mac is going to be a slightly wins. I say that because compared to like the characters up here, Little Mac is actually hard to deal with on stage. He's very hard to deal with on stage because his up tilt kind of breaks through back air, and also since he's a very strong whiff punisher and that he can dash dance really hard, you can explode pretty quickly. Plus, Cloud does have a few ways in which he can gimp Little Mac, but it's not as easy compared to some other characters. And yeah, I just find that Little Mac is not as easy to wall out as he looks. Lucario is pretty easy for Cloud to deal with. He's good air mobility, but he's not a fast faller, so if you see him coming towards you, you can kind of just wall him out forever. And even though you do have to watch out for Aura Sphere, generally I find this to be a pretty easy matchup for Cloud. I think most Cloud players, they get into the habit of, oh my goodness, I can't up B out of his Nair. Then just don't play like that. Just play with punish, you just use your aerials, don't rely on shielding too much because Lucario's shield pressure is pretty scary. Not necessarily due to force spawn, but just because again, Nair is like -0 on shield. So it's just better to use your mobility instead. Next character is Lucas. This is gonna be a hot take, but I consider him a possible losing one, since if Lucas gets you off stage, you have to assume you're just dead. At the same time, his on-stage presence is not that bad either. He has Sair, he has PK Fire, so it can be pretty tricky to deal with him. I think that Lucas is more difficult to fight than Ness as Cloud, for the sheer fact that it is so easy for Lucas to gimp you. Lucina is going to be a slightly wins. I think that she's pretty hard to fight, but part of me can't help but think that Cloud has some kind of advantage. It might just be because Cloud has an incentive to camp, whereas Lucina doesn't, and also Cloud does have really good space control with Cross Slash. So I think conceptually Cloud wins this matchup, but I think it could be pretty even. I find that Marcina is roughly the same range and equal if not better frame data, so I don't know how to think about it. It's also easy for Marcina to edgeguard Cloud, but if I remember correctly, most Cloud players consider this a winning matchup. I would be inclined to agree, but I'm inclined to believe it comes down to execution. Luigi is a fairly easy matchup for Cloud to deal with, just don't get grabbed. Simple. Mario is also a, let's say, maybe here. I say that because even though it's frequently agreed upon that Mario has a hard time against sword characters, I don't think he actually struggles as much as people think. I think that Mario has pretty good air mobility, and he can get in on you very quickly, and there's also the fact that like 4 of his aerials are safe on shield, to the point where it's not as easy to play around Mario as you would think. And then, specifically for Cloud, Mario can edge guard and gimp Cloud extremely easy, with Flood, with down tilt, with dash attack and stuff like that, and Cape, don't forget Cape. Okay, while Lucina is a slight win, I actually think that Marth is even. Reason being, Marth can kill you at 60 if you're not careful. Lucina, she's pretty honest and consistent in how she likes to go about attack. Lucina, she's pretty honest and consistent. Unless you get edge guarded, it's hard for Lucina to kind of kill you an early percent. Marth, if he gets a forward smash, if he gets a side B tipper, if he gets a tipper back here, you can reasonably expect to die as early as like 80. So there's that X factor you have to watch out for. Mega Man, I never struggle with Mega Man. I don't know, maybe people might put him over here, but personally I found that Mega Man is one of the easier quote-unquote zoners for Cloud to fight. You can up B out of shield, leave shield, you can back air through his pellets, you can also back air through Metal Blade, you can punish him pretty easily. I just don't think that Mega Man's that good against Cloud. I think he has the wrong tools to take him on, and just, yeah, I never really had that much of a difficult time. Meta Knight's going to be over here. In a similar vein to Lucas, he has to edgeguard you, but he has a slightly harder time on stage, and even off stage, it's a bit less suffocating. I find that recovering against the Meta Knight is more doable. Mewtwo, he is a very easy matchup. He's fast, he has Shadow Ball, and he has pretty decent range, but one word, tail. You have a sword, he doesn't. Mii Brawler will be probably also in win. It's kind of like Mario, only not as difficult. I find Mii Brawler to be a bit more relaxing of a match. That sounds disrespectful. I don't know, Mii Brawler's faster quote unquote, but he doesn't have the same kind of horizontal mobility that Mario does in a single jump, and that makes it easier for Cloud to wall him out. Mii Gunner, I'd say here. It's okay. It depends on the moveset of course, but I think Mii Gunner is pretty easy to fight. Mii Sword Fighter is here. Also very easy to fight. They don't have the same range, they don't have the same mobility, they don't have the same frame data. There you go. Min Min beats Cloud. They used to say like, oh, Cloud can just approach diagonally, he has the mobility to do that. It doesn't matter, Min Min just jumps a Ram and covers that option. And then she has more range than you, she has pretty good out of shield options, and if you get thrown off stage, it's like Lucas, you just explode. Min Min is one of Cloud's hardest matchups, in my opinion. To beat Min Min, you need close range pressure. Cloud has min-range pressure. He does have a few close range options like up the shield, but generally he wants to play min-range, except min-range is exactly where Min Min wants to play too. So from my point of view, it's a losing matchup. Game & Watch is here. Cloud has the advantage, but it's not as easy as people think it is. I can't exactly put my finger on it. He does edgeguard Cloud, but it's not that bad. He's harder to attack on shield than most other characters, but it's not that bad. I can't quite pinpoint what it is. Jersey has quite a few Game & Watches, and my set count against most of them is either even or positive. But I don't know, I just think that Cloud doesn't hard counter Game & Watch as much as people think he does. Ness is comfortably in wins. You can get thrown off by his strange movement attack with PSI Magnet, and then you also have to watch out for his edge guarding. But in practice, it's a fairly comfortable matchup for Cloud. Pac-Man's just annoying. I should put him here. He's usually here. I put him here just because it's Pac-Man, he's annoying, he's got BS. You just have to watch out for that. Palutena I think is going to be relatively even. She and Cloud have kind of very similar game plans in the sense that both of them have relatively comparable neutrals, advantages, and disadvantages in terms of like the options they have. And I think that even though Cloud has the range advantage, Palutena has the movement and the ability to challenge Cloud's range because she has invincible moves, and as well as, a better combo game and an edge guarding, so I find it to be a relatively even matchup. Pichu and Pikachu, they're actually very similar to each other in the sense that they're very small, and they can take Cloud for quite a ride if he's not careful. That being said, Pichu is squishier, and Cloud can kill him much earlier than Pikachu. As for Pikachu's case, Prevailing Wisdom used to once consider Pikachu Cloud's worst matchup, but I've always felt like this is one of the more winnable losing matchups. Pikachu definitely wins in concept, but in practice, he really has to earn it. I feel like Cloud actually can do a lot because Pikachu is fast, but not super fast like Fox or, like any kind of rushdown fighter. Olimar is free as hell. Cloud has Nair to cover his entire body, so it doesn't matter where the Pikmin latches onto, he covers all of that, and then he just has a massive sword compared to Olimar's Pikmin. Very easy matchup. Piranha Plant's also pretty easy. He can cheese you, that's the only way he can beat you, that's about it. I really can't think of anything else. Piranha Plant just loses. Pokemon Trainer, so altogether, I would say it's a winning matchup. The win condition of all three Pokemon is to edge guard you, because all three of them have killing back throws. All of them have some way in which they can screw over Cloud off stage. Squirtle has Water Gun, Ivysaur can Down Air, and Charizard has Flamethrower. But overall, I think that Cloud just has the right set of tools to handle all three of them, and so it's a pretty winning matchup, but the BT player can definitely do stuff. Aegis, Pyra and Mythra combined will result in a losing matchup, but slightly winnable. I don't think that there are any sword matchups that are hard losing in the sense that that's just not the type of archetype that Cloud loses to. He's very good at beating Swordies, or not beat Swordies, but he can challenge Swordies because Swordies are all about neutral and advantage. So it always comes down to whoever gets more mileage out of their neutral wins, and against Pyra and Mythra, it's difficult because against Mythra you have to pay the heavy tax even though Cloud's not a heavy, and against Pyra you have to treat her like Ike where she's slower, yes, but she has more range and more coverage. The Belmonts, I put the Belmonts in even. They can be pretty challenging to deal with because they have more range than Cloud. Not as much coverage, but they don't really need it because they can set up instances where you only can approach in a certain direction. I think the Belmonts and Cloud have equal stage pressure, so it really just comes down to who can edge guard the other or who has a better advantage state. Ridley's going to be in slight losing. He's not impossible, but it's similar to Bowser and DK where they have pretty good range and coverage and can definitely match Cloud on stage, but then if they get put into disadvantage, you can take them for 80-90%. Meanwhile, if they take you off stage, you're in trouble. So, the same thing. Rob, I would say, is going to be even. Rob can combo and then edge guard Cloud. Cloud can juggle Rob. I think it's whichever player just executes better. I'm inclined to believe it's like 52-48 Rob. I think Rob has a bit more he can do in this matchup than Cloud, which might be why Spargo goes Aegis into Rob, not Cloud, because I think between Rob and Cloud, I think Rob can dictate the pace of the match a bit more comfortably than Cloud can, whereas Cloud has to kind of react to what he's going to do and play ahead of him. Even so, the disparity is not too significant to where I feel like Rob is a slight win against Cloud. I think it's still pretty even. Robin is going to be in wins. I think Cloud has a pretty easy time against Robin. You do have to watch out for rising aerials because rising forward air, rising nair and stuff like that can be pretty dangerous, and when Robin does have Love and Sword, the range is pretty comparable to Cloud's Buster Sword in some cases, but overall I think Cloud is more consistent and can do more in his advantage state as opposed to Robin's advantage state. Rosalina and Luma, very easy matchup. It can be tricky because, it's a matchup check obviously, but Cloud basically beats Rosa and Luma at the same time. You can actually kind of abuse Luma with the hit lag extension against Rosa. So yeah, just Rosa can really never approach a Cloud, you just wall her out and you're fine. Roy, I'm gonna put Roy in slightly loses. The reason being is because Roy has everything Chrom does, only much safer shield pressure because his down tilt's -3, so he can bait out a lot of things, and he can also just be a bit safer with his landing aerials. Not to mention he can break through your defenses pretty quickly and combo you for 60, 70, 80%. He has higher kill power. The one advantage Cloud has in this matchup is that Roy has to approach him, so if you have an immaculate defense and whiff punish game, you can really exploit Roy. But overall, I think this matchup is still relatively challenging for Cloud. I think the Cloud player has to be pretty on point with his callouts, and I think that's another reason why Spargo goes Aegis against Roy instead of Cloud, because Cloud has to work a little bit harder to win compared to Aegis. I might put this in even because Roy's disadvantage is super punishable for Cloud. Cloud's got the perfect tools to punish Roy in the corner or when he's trying to land, but I still think that Roy has a better time in this matchup. Ryu is a slight win. Reason being, and I mentioned this with Ken, Ryu can probably outcamp Cloud, I think, with his Shakunetsu Otoken. And then his Nair is, even on late hit, is unpunishable with Duppy. So he has a bit more safety in neutral, in exchange for slightly less damage output than Ken, but against Claude, better neutral pressure is more valuable, I think. It's still very easy to beat him, you know, he's a Shota without burst movement options, so I might actually, you know what, I think I'm gonna just put them in the same category. They're not too different in how you engage them as Claude. Next character is going to be Samus. Samus is even. It's even, but it's a very annoying even. Fighting Samus as Claude is a lot about callouts and reads. That's it. You can't rush her down and combo her into oblivion, so you just gotta be as good as you can with neutral, keeping track of her panic options, cause Samus players do have a habit of cornering themselves, putting them in a pseudo disadvantage state, so how you handle that determines if you win or lose against her. Conceptually speaking, it's an even matchup. Mentally speaking, it's a losing matchup. Sephiroth, Cloud wins. Maybe not this hard. I think, no, you know, I don't know. It's like Cloud can do to Sephiroth what Roy can do to Cloud, essentially, which is kind of funny. I think, you know what, I might put him here because Sephiroth still has the neutral advantage. You still have to approach Sephiroth. I know that doesn't sound like it makes any sense because you have Blade Beam and he doesn't. But because Sephiroth is the distance demon, naturally you have to get him close and personal against him. And Cloud can do that fairly competently. Moreover, since Sephiroth is so light, some of Cloud's harder hitting moves like Up Smash, Dash Attack, and Limit Cross Slash can kill him much earlier than he's comfortable with. So if you get him a disadvantage and punish him really hard, he can't make use of One Wing as much. At least from my experience, I feel like Sephiroth is intended to be uncomfortable to fight as Cloud, but for some reason whenever I fight Sephiroth, it doesn't feel like I'm not in control of the match. I feel like Sephiroth has to kind of react to me, not the other way around. Sheik is going to be losing. Sheik is like Fox, where she can mash on you non-stop and there's nothing you can do about it. The difference in frame data is too massive. However, unlike Fox, Sheik has a lot more evasion and can play very much like Greninja and Inkling and just be very hard to hit. So it's a pretty tough matchup. I think overall, you still have a way to win, you just have to make good callouts and reads in neutral, but if the skill levels are equal between the two players, Cloud's gonna lose every single time. Sheik is just built to counter people who play mid-range. Shulk is a tough matchup. He's not the most difficult opponent to fight, but he can get pretty fancy with you. You can think of it like Ike, where you have better frame data than him technically, but not too much better to where Shulk can't just simply outrange you. He can get fast with speed art, he can edge guard you with jump art, he can be tanky with shield art, he can one-shot you with buster art, or no, not buster art. He can do as much damage as you can with buster art, and then he can one-shot you with smash art. So he's one of the trickiest sword fighters to deal with this Cloud, but it's not impossible. You just have to know the ins and outs of what you can and cannot punish. Snake, I'm gonna put him in probably slightly loses, if not even. Like if there was a, how do I say, it's like a 47-53 kind of matchup. It's like, I might put him here. I think that Cloud has the range to keep Snake away forever, but he still has to approach because grenades beat out Blade Beam in terms of pressure. Now, the problem is, because Cloud's hitboxes are so big, sometimes he will hit Snake, and then even if you're trying not to hit the grenade, you will still hit the grenade because your forward air or back air is just so big it accidentally hits him. So it can be difficult to pressure Snake without accidentally setting off the grenade, and moreover, he can edgeguard the living daylights out of you, evidenced by what Hurt did to Spargo in Battle of BC6, which was a masterclass in side B usage. That being said, Cloud is pretty good at juggling Snake and pretty good at knocking him out of Cypher, but definitively I would say that Snake is better on stage pressure. Sonic is a losing matchup. Sonic is, once again, very similar to Sheik, Greninja, and Inkling, where he has frame data that is measurably faster than yours, and he also has the speed to dance around your hitboxes and get in really close and then get back out. It's not as difficult for Cloud to deal with Sonic compared to other characters because Cloud does have an incentive to camp and he can outcamp Sonic, but it's just so exhausting. Take the fatigue of fighting Samus and amplify it threefold. That's Sonic. Sora is slightly winning. He has big hitboxes and they last forever, but overall Cloud has the speed to kind of really punish Sora's very floating nature because Sora can't move around that much, and Cloud can kind of run him down. Also, it's really easy for Cloud to zone control against Sora because of Sora's mobility, or lack thereof. Cloud can zone control really well with rising back air, rising forward air, cross slash, and up B preemptively, so it's relatively easy to deal with Sora on stage, and even off stage, Sora doesn't have that easy of a time edgeguarding Cloud in my opinion. And it's also another case where Cloud consistently has Blade Beam, whereas Sora doesn't always have Firaga, meaning Cloud can outcamp Sora, and Sora does not want to approach his opponent, but against Cloud he sometimes has to. Steve is a, I'm gonna say, slight win. It's hard because you still have to approach. Like, I don't think Cloud has the luxury to charge limit and spam Blade Beam against Steve. It's better if you go after Steve. But at the same time, Cloud has the perfect set of tools to counter Steve. Even though, yes, Steve gets in, he kind of one-shots you and blows you to pieces and he can edgeguard you really well. But with that said, if you play on stage correctly, you will very rarely if ever get thrown off stage, so you should be fine. Plus, back air beats out minecart because if you collide with back air, it will still hit Steve through it. Terry. Terry's it's a winning matchup, but unlike the Shotos, Terry has burst movement options and he can get in your face very quickly. You really have to understand Terry's burst movement range and threat radius, because if you don't, he can destroy you. But if you do, then you can wall him out just like any other melee character. It just takes a bit more reaction and a bit more, I guess, care when you're fighting him. He can definitely surprise you. I think we have quite a few Terrys in Tri-State, and they're pretty good at getting to you when they want to. Toon Link is going to be a slight win. He's 100% easier to fight than Link. Actually, you know what? I might put him here. And then Young Link, I'm going to put him over here. I'm kind of skipping the line a bit. Toon Link is the easiest to fight out of the three. Then Young Link is slightly more challenging to fight, but because he's so small and stubby, you can still outrange him. Young Link has safer aerials on shield than regular Link, but you can zone control him a lot more. Whereas regular Link has big enough hitboxes to fight you at min-range, and the safety on shield to fight you up close. Villager, similarly to Isabelle, in fact I might think that Villager is easier to fight than Isabelle. No, actually they're roughly about the same, but same thing as usual where you just use your bigger sword against their weird assortment of hitboxes and moves, and you should be fine. Just don't try to hit the tree too much, because a lot of people think that they can break the tree. You can't. Wario is going to be here. Very similar to Mario, where you win in neutral, and if you space your sword correctly, they should never be able to get in on you. But because of how good Wario's airspeed and air movement is, not to mention the fact that once he does get in on you, he can one-shot you. So you have to treat him like a touch of death character, except he's an aerial touch of death character as opposed to Little Mac being a grounded touch of death character. Wii Fit Trainer is also in slightly wins. You beat them because they have arguably the stubbiest hitboxes in the game, but they also have some of the best long-range pressure in the game in the form of header and sun salutation. You can hit the soccer ball back, but empirically, the soccer ball never hits them back because it always bounces away from them, and therefore you kind of just have to get up close. You have to play the ledge really well. I think of Wii Fit Trainer and Banjo as very similar in the sense that they're going to try to camp you, and you have to try to read their patterns or their habits and punish accordingly, because if you don't, you're going to be playing a very long game. I think of Wolf and Roy as more or less the same, where they have fantastic speed and can get in on you, but unlike Fox, where you can explode Fox in the blink of an eye, Wolf and Roy are a bit more equipped to take you on properly, and they can handle you at pretty much every point in the game. Whether you're neutral, whether you're off stage, on stage, Wolf is fast enough to outmaneuver you, and his blaster is better than your blade beam, so you have to approach him. Yoshi is slightly wins. Cloud wins against Yoshi in concept, but he has such good air drift and air mobility that he can get in on you very quickly, very similar to Wario and Mario, where you can wall them out in theory, but you really have to respect their ability to kind of get in really close to you in one jump or one full hop, and then after that they take you for a ride. Yoshi can also gimp Cloud very easily because of his forward air, or especially Nair. If you use Nair with the super armor double jump cancel, then you're basically screwed, so you have to be careful against Yoshi. Yoshi can be pretty deadly. Also, you shouldn't hold shield too much against Yoshi because he has Egg Lay, so that's one more thing you have to worry about. Two more, we have Zelda. Zelda gets destroyed by Cloud. Don't get killed by Phantom on ledge. People on Elite Smash think that Phantom is the hardest thing to ever deal with at the ledge. Not really. It is pretty easy to deal with. You just have to adjust your timing, and that's about it. Zelda gets destroyed on stage, off stage, in the air, on the ground, doesn't matter. You win every time. If you lose to a Zelda, either that Zelda player is cracked to hell, or you just got checked. Finally, we have Zero Suit Samus. Now I'm going to put her over here. The reason why ZSS is here compared to the other hit and runners who are here, I really don't know what it is, but I find her to be a lot easier to fight than the other hit and runners. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Like, if Mars or someone else wants to describe it from the other side, like, what is it about Cloud that makes ZSS so much easier to fight than the other hit and runners? My guess is that ZSS doesn't have a massive disjointed ability they can use, like she doesn't have Greninja Fair or Inkling Back Air, or maybe it's because ZSS can't really edge guard Cloud. That might be it. It might just be because every other hit and runner can edge guard Cloud pretty easily, whereas ZSS kind of has to ledge trap Cloud. But it's kind of hard to ledge trap Cloud because Cloud has a decent ledge game. That might be it? I really don't know what it is. You'll have to figure out something else later. But yeah, anyways, that's the matchup chart. Very top heavy in that Cloud does beat a lot of characters, or he has at least a fighting chance against a lot of characters. I don't think there are many characters in the game that just straight up destroy him, like even these 5. It's tough, but it's not impossible. There's no like -3s or -4s for Cloud. He's a good character, and the toolset that he has is perfect for being able to overcome the deficit you have in matchup through skill and fundamentals. So I think if you're looking for a very consistent and meta-stable character, once you learn how to mix up your recovery and all that stuff, Cloud is one of the most stable characters in the game. There's always a threat of, yes, you can get gamed, you can get edge guarded, but that's if they can get you off stage first, and Cloud's on stage pressure is just so good. It's like one of the best in the game. After playing the game for a lot longer, I think my opinions on certain matchups have improved a lot, and I think that they're a lot more digestible than they used to be. But regardless, what do you guys think about this chart? Do you think it's a fair, assessment of every matchup, or do you think I'm off the mark on a few of them? Let me know in the comments down below. In any case, my voice is killing me, so I'm gonna end it off here. If you enjoyed the video, it would be great if you could leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Smash videos if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.